Hey guys, and thanks for joining me. This is Mark from Melbourne TV. In this video, I will be covering 5 key things. So I'm going to recap what's happened in the market in the last 2 weeks. And then I'm going to be talking about some juicy forks like Z Classic, Ethereum Classic, and MoneroV. I'm going to be covering MoneroV in a bit more detail. So basically things like why they're doing it, what are the key differences, and when the fork is going to happen. I'll then cover something called Luna. So Luna is a coin that is a media platform, not quite like Steemit, probably more like Wikipedia, but I'll cover that again in detail. And then I'll be finishing on Bitcoin and discussing where I think Bitcoin will be going over the next week and what we might be able to expect. So let's get into it. So currently Bitcoin is sitting at 10,306. The market is green for change, which is nice. So we can see in the last 24 hours, almost everything is positive against the US dollar. And also this would be the same in Bitcoin as Bitcoin has sort of stayed in this sort of range. So it's nice seeing green for change. A lot of holders will be down from the highest point back in January, so we are seeing a bit of a recovery here. So out of these, there are a few standouts. So Nano has bounced from its low. People are starting to buy back into that. One thing that's been doing really well are forks. So we saw Z Classic go from $2 to $240 at one point. So that's a massive increase for a fork for Z Classic going into Bitcoin private. So the same team is rebranding, using the Bitcoin name, adding a few features like Z Snarks and a few other things. So that will be sort of interesting for any Bitcoin holder or Z Classic holder. One Bitcoin private will be airdropped for every one Z Classic or Bitcoin that you're holding. So looking at Ethereum Classic, we can see that there is starting to be a bit of a run at the moment. So it's up 17.4%. So I think we will continue to see it run. We're expecting Ethereum Classic to do an airdrop. I believe it's March 3rd or 4th, depending on the block that's coming up. And also I'm expecting something similar for MoneroV. So let's take a look. Yeah, here we go. So Ethereum Classic snapshot 5th of March. What we can expect is probably a bit of a run, but I do expect a sell-off leading up, probably a few days before the snapshot date, but also a big drop following the airdrop. So just be wary of that. I think if you haven't gotten into it, I'd be hesitant to get into it now. However, it does look interesting. I'm not too big on the Callisto drop. The main difference is basically it will reward or incentivize holders of the token, of the Callisto token, as something called cold staking, where you don't have to be an active participant, but you will be rewarded for holding those tokens under a smart contract. So I guess I'm not really invested in Ethereum Classic long term. I do hold some Ethereum. The reason why I have some Ethereum Classic is mainly for this fork. The reason why Ethereum Classic came about in the first place, if you guys aren't aware, as a result of the DAO hack back in 2016, 50 million DAO tokens were stolen. The community decided to do a hard fork where Ethereum, the new chain, which solves the vulnerabilities and returned a lot of the money to the people that were affected, and a lot of the founders as well as Vitalik moved onto the new chain, which is now known as the main Ethereum. And Ethereum Classic are for those people who don't believe in, who believe code is law, and basically they're not interested in changing the chain just because of a minority that were affected, as they believe it can be or foreshadow future decisions or impact future decisions. So let's get into MoneroV. So MoneroV is expected to do an airdrop on March the 14th, so that's about 3 weeks from now. That's an approximate date, and there's a specific fork block. Now, the main difference between MoneroV and Monero is basically it's got scalability in mind. Also, the biggest difference is a finite total supply compared to an infinite supply. So the total supply for MoneroV will be capped at 256 million. Also, the circulating supply will be 158 million compared to 15.8 million at the time of the fork. So what this means is, for every Monero you're holding leading up to this date, the 14th of March, you will receive 10 Monero V. So look, what do I think of MoneroV, and will I be investing in this? So I will be holding Monero for the gains, or for the I believe the demand for it leading up to people expecting free cash and stuff. But I won't be holding MoneroV. I will be selling it as soon as I get it. The reason for this is I don't particularly think the community or the team behind this will take this much further than Monero itself. But look, I'll leave a link to it so you guys can check it out. The main difference is sort of covered in the white paper. Basically, in order to find out which exchanges support it, we will have to wait and see. So this is just a quick rundown. It basically covers what I've said with the max supply chain, scalability, the differences here between total circulation and also coins in circulation. Mining difficulty will be the same. The hard fork split just basically talks about which block it's going to happen, and yeah, that's basically it. I'll include this in the link so you guys can take a look at this for yourself. But it does seem like forks are a bit of a trend, and if Z Classic is any indication of what might happen, we'll see Ethereum Classic continue to pump, as well as see MoneroV or Monero pump in the coming week. So let's go to Bitcoin. So ever since the retest of the lows down at 6,062, it looks like we've just had an incredible 2 weeks, almost going diagonal here. As you can see, we did have 11.3 here, and we were expecting a dip down to about, I was expecting a dip down to at least 9,500, and we didn't get that the first time. People thought we were going to, we're out of the woods here, but it does look like we're having a bit of a retracement, and I was expecting a dip to the Fibonacci point out here at 0.618, but I would like to see a dip down here at 0.5 before I would consider buying any more. From here, I really expect us to trade sideways between 10,000 where we are now to about 11,000 for the next couple of days, and we'll see altcoins have a bit of a run up for the next few days. Don't get caught out. I believe that Bitcoin will go for another run, and altcoins will dip a little bit here. So what am I doing? This is not financial advice, and I'm not telling you guys what to do, but I will be selling some of my altcoins into Bitcoin, a small percentage, looking to buy some alts at a discount, and then hopefully we'll see an alt run in I suppose late March or early April. Now, something interesting that I came across is today Luna is up. Where are you? So Luna is up 82.5% today against the US dollar, and about 70% against Bitcoin. So Luna is basically a media platform. Unlike Steam, it is probably more like Wikipedia. It provides platform, mostly writing, not so much video. And basically, content creators are rewarded by contribution, and there are ads, but they're targeted and relevant ads. These ads reward contributors through the system, so it does look interesting. The reason for the pump though is this is actually a brand new website. If we go through here, we can see that basically a new update for plagiarism has been developed by the team. They're calling it the plagiarism detection 1.0. So this automatically detects any sort of plagiarism, as the name implies. And I think it's an interesting project. So this covers Golem and its applications. There is incentives for people to post, and it is on the blockchain. So there is a lot of interest and hype around this. I'm not invested currently, but I do find the concept interesting, and I'll leave a link for this update. But I do think this update is part of the reason for today's pump. So I do expect a bit of a correction,